Hey guys, this is Aaron from ImpactKC Worship. Today I'm going to be walking you guys through my process of creating a backing track for a live stage setting. Now let me clarify by saying I'm not claiming this to be the only way, I'm not even claiming it to be the best way. I'm just sharing you guys the way I feel is the most efficient way to improve my workflow in doing this process. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my software. So I'm going to be using Logic Pro X. So I'm going to create a new session here. And so the first thing that I do is I am going to take a reference audio track from the original song that I'm going to be creating a track for. So today for that reference audio, I'm going to be using a song called Wake Up My Heart. And this is a song that we wrote here at ImpactKC. And this is, again, just an example. So it is just going to be a very short instrumental interlude, okay? Now, what I'm going to do after I have dragged this original reference audio track in, I am going to now sync my session or my arrangement to the same BPM as the original reference audio. So I know for this song that it's going to be 97 BPM. So I'm also going to change, I know the song's in D major, it's in 4/4 time signature, so now everything should be synced up. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that the downbeat of 1 on any particular measure is on the downbeat of 1 for any measure in your arrangement as well. So if I zoom in here, you can tell that downbeat right there is pretty much right on the downbeat of the measure in my arrangement as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the click here and let's listen and make sure everything is synced up to the click. And you can also get an idea of what the introduction of this song sounds like. So here we go. There we go. So it seems to be synced up pretty well. So we're just going to run with that. Now, so my first step to actually start tracking is I kind of have to ask myself to what capacity do I want to track. So one thing you want to keep in mind is that our goal here is to only track what we cannot reproduce live. For instance, let's say you have a keyboard player who can really just rock out all these awesome synth lines. You don't want to be tracking over top of what he can actually play in a live setting. Let's say you have just a guy that's on keys, and he can really rock out just the piano sound, but is not great at the synth. Or even, let's say you have a guitar player and he is going to play the lead lines, but you don't have a rhythm guitar player. You can track all this, have it all synced up to where when you're actually playing on stage, you can make your band sound huge, right? Even though you don't have as many people on stage as you could potentially want. So again, I'm going to listen to this reference track, and what I'm going to start doing is basically reproducing what is in the original audio. So first thing again, I'm going to take a listen and see what I can break down piece by piece and part by part. So here we go. So again, just listening to that intro, I hear that lead line that is over top of the mix. It's being played by the lead guitar, and there's also, it sounds like the synth player is playing the lead line as well. So doubling the electric guitar. So let's listen to that again. So the next thing I want to do is, after listening to that part, so I know I want to track that lead line, is I have to actually learn the notes. Now, I've already learned all the notes for you guys, so you don't have to sit here and listen to me, try to plink around and try to find the parts. So it's going to sound like this. So right now I just have a classic electric piano pulled up just so that I can have something to play. Here it sounds. So there's that lead line. Now, obviously, that's not the sound that I want to use. But so our next step is to basically start searching for sounds. Now, this is the thing that is probably going to take you a long time until you get really used to whatever software you're using. So what I just did was I added a new software instrument track. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go try to find a sound that is at least close to what was in the original reference track. So again, I'm a little more familiar with this program, so I kind of know where to look. So a thing that'll really help you guys is whatever software you're using. You know, if you're using GarageBand, if you're using Pro Tools, you know, all these principles apply to pretty much any of those programs. But it really helps if you kind of make. I actually have a notebook where I keep all these notes, and I know what sounds are going to work for, you know, for certain things. So I don't have to sit and search for hours because there's so many sounds that you can potentially use. So I'm going to look through here, and I know kind of what I'm looking for. It's kind of a bell, whistly kind of sound for that lead line for the synth. So I'm just going to type bell here, and everything that is titled bell comes up here. So I'm familiar with this sound. Let's see how this sounds. So that's at least in the ballpark. So what I'm going to do is you kind of hear that delay. I'm going to turn that delay almost all the way off. Maybe reverb up a little bit. There we go. That sounds a little more what was in the original. I'm going to listen to the original again. Let's listen. So that sounds pretty close. So my next step is I'm going to actually record that part over top of my reference audio, and let's see how it sounds. So here we go. So there we go, at least in the ballpark, again, to kind of what is in the original. So the next thing that I generally do after I've recorded a track is I'm going to double click in here where all of my MIDI information is. You can tell all these notes that I just played show up here in this little timeline area down the bottom. So what I like to do is I like something that's called quantizing. And what that does is it basically takes the notes that you just played and it'll make the rhythm perfect. So you can kind of decide, do I want it exactly perfect or do I want it, you know, pretty close? Because sometimes depending on the sound that you use, it can start sounding a little robotic. Now for this, I want it to be exactly perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click one of these notes and then I'm going to select all. So I'm using a Mac, so I'm going to do Command A, and that highlights all of that MIDI information there. Now, if you look over here to the left, I'm going to quantize all these notes to the nearest 16th note. So you can choose whether you want an eighth or quarter, etc. So I'm going to click the Q at 100%. So that strength means it's going to be exactly perfect. So now let's listen along with our click, and let's make sure everything is right on the beat. So let's listen. So not bad. Again, I would probably do some tweaking to the sound, but for this tutorial video, I'm just kind of teaching you guys the process of tracking, not necessarily how to build sounds, etc. So let's just say that track is done. So let's move on. So my next step is I'm going to mute that channel that we just used, or that we just recorded, and I'm going to listen to our reference audio and decide what I want to track next. Okay, so let's keep listening. Here we go. So I kind of hear a almost like a pulsing synthesizer sound. If you're familiar with terminology of synthesizers, it almost sounds kind of like a saw kind of sound. So I am going to search for something around that kind of sound here. So I added a new software instrument. I'm going to go over here, and just to be quick, I'm just going to type in saw. And I'm familiar with this sound. Let's just drag it in and see how it sounds. So that's at least close to what I'm looking for. And I can go to this little button here, the smart controls, and I can always change some stuff around. So just listen initially. I'm going to roll my cutoff down a little bit. This makes it not as bright. And again, I'm not necessarily taking this video to teach you guys how to build sounds, but I'm just making some quick changes here. Maybe roll the cutoff back up a little bit more. There we go. So that matches a little bit more to what I'm listening. So I'm going to listen to that reference audio again and make sure that I kind of have the correct part in my head. Here we go. Hear the pulsing. All right, so I'm going to try recording that now that I'm kind of convinced now that I actually have the part in my head. So let's try this. Here we go. So there we go. Again, I'm going to double click these MIDI notes in here on my channel. I'm going to highlight all of these notes, and I'm going to quantize those to make sure that they're absolutely perfect. So now let's listen and see how it goes. Again, I'm just going to listen in this channel with the click to make sure everything's synced up rhythmically. Here we go. All right, so not bad. Now let's listen to the two channels that I've just recorded along with our reference track and see how they're matching up. Here we go. All right, so we're getting there, or at least getting somewhere. So let's continue on. So I'm going to mute those two channels. I'm going to do some more listening and see if I want to track anything else. Here we go. So the next thing I kind of hear is there's like a low synthesizer sound kind of mimicking what the bass is doing. So very similar to the thing that we did with the saw. However, I don't hear the syncopated part in the third measure. I think it's just going to be straight eighth notes. So what I'm going to do is I kind of, again, I know what kind of sound I'm going for. So I'm going to just search in here. I'm going to go to synthesizer. I'm going to go to classics, and I'm familiar with this sound. Let's check how this sounds. Here we go. Oh, hold on here. I actually changed the sound of the track we were on. Let me add another track. Here we go. There we go. All right. Synthesizer, classics, and I'm going to go with the big pulse wave. So let's listen to this. There we go. There we go. That's more what I'm looking for. So I'm going to go over to Smart Tools again. I'm going to bring that cutoff knob down a little bit. There we go. I'm going to make the release a little longer so that it's not so choppy. Not that long. It's a little more what I'm looking for. I'm going to bring the reverb and the ambience up so it's not so dry. It's a little better. So now I'm basically just going to pulse that bass line along with the original audio, and let's try to record it. Here we go. Okay, so now that we just recorded, I felt like it was a decent take, so I'm going to take all these notes, highlight them, quantize them, and now let's listen to what we have. I'm going to mute the reference audio and just listen to everything that I've recorded. Here we go. All right, so not bad for the first go around. Now again, I would probably do some more mixing and manipulating of those sounds to make them kind of fit in the mix a little better. But not bad, again, to just get in the ballpark. Okay, so now that I have these recorded, let's go back, listen to our reference audio, and see if there's anything else we want to track. Here we go. Now just initially listen to it again. I really don't hear any more synth parts that I feel like I would need to cover. But for example, let's say for this particular week, we're down a keyboard player. We literally don't have a keyboard player. I could go in and record, just regular keys parts. Like I could add a software instrument, go to piano, just a standard piano sound, and get my sustain pedal here. Whatever a keyboardist would do for the arrangement, record it, and I can have it in my arrangement for, just in case we miss a piano player that week. Or same thing with guitars. So essentially, what I end up doing is reproducing almost the entire song so that any particular week, if I'm down an instrumentalist, I can come into this arrangement and I can, again, just pull up that track for that particular instrument and have it ready to go so that we can have a very consistent arrangement week to week and a very consistent worship experience, even if we're down some players for that week. Another thing that I like to do is I like to record cues for my band. So let's say we just finished tracking all the instruments that we need, but I want to record basically, entrance cues using my voice to lead the band into different sections of the song. So all I would do is I would go up here and I would add a new audio track, okay? And again, you can do this multiple ways. You can just pull out a standard microphone. You can use the microphone built into your computer. Just make sure at least there's nothing going on in the room so that it's quiet enough. And you can just record your voice to give those cues leading in with the band. For example, what I would do is I would cue the band in for this full band entrance right here. And the way I might do that is something like this. Full band, ready, go. And then the band knows that that downbeat of the next measure is when they're coming in. So generally what I will do if we have a full tracked song is I will give cues entrances for, interludes into the verses, into the choruses, etc. And I'll have that recorded along with my tracks and my reference audio. So as soon as you are done creating, whatever tracks you need to for your arrangement, that is the point where you have to decide what you're going to be exporting for your tracks. And there's multiple ways to do that. Now, this is going to be what we're going to do. We're going to have a second video, a part 2 to this, that is going to explain your next step of actually running your tracks on stage. So please subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and check out our part 2 for this video.